So we continue reading from the Caitanya Caritamrita. We're up to the Adi-lila chapter 12, expansions of Advaita Acharya, and we'll read starting from text number 54. Acharya yara abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje Acharyara abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje Acharyara abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje Prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje Acharya abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje Prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje Acharya abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje Prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje. Any ladies? Acharya abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje Prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje Acharyara abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje Prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje Acharyara abhipraya prabhu matra bhuje Prabhu ragambira vakya acharya samuje. Read word for word. Acharyara of Advaita Acharya. Abhipraya intention. Prabhu matra only Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhuje can understand. Prabhura of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Gambira, grave. Vakya, instruction. Acharya, Advaita Acharya. Samuje, can understand. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Only Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu could understand the intentions of Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya appreciated the grave instruction of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Move on to the next text, number 55. Eta prastebe achi bahuta vichare granta bahulya baya nari likebada. Translation. In this statement there are many confidential considerations. I do not write of them all, fearing an unnecessary increase in the volume of this book. Text number 56. Sri Yadu Nandanacharya Advaitera Shaka Tanra Shaka Upa Shakara Nahi Haya Lekha. Translation. The fifth branch of Advaita Acharya was Sri Yadu Nandanacharya, who had so many branches and sub-branches that it is impossible to write of them. Purport. Yadu Nandanacharya was the official initiated spiritual master of Raghunath Das Goswami. In other words, when Raghunath Das Goswami was a householder, Yadu Nandanacharya initiated him at home. Later, Raghunath Das Goswami took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. Let's do one more text. Text number 57. Vasudeva Datera Tenho Kripara Bhajana Sava Bhave Ashriyache Caitanya Charana. Translation: Sri Yadunandanacharya was a student of Vasudeva Dutt, and he received all his mercy. Therefore, he could accept Lord Chaitanya's feet from all angles of vision as the supreme shelter. Purport: the Gaura Ganadishtapika, verse 140, describes that Vasudeva Dutt was formerly Madhuvrata, a singer in Vrindavan. Om Jnana Chamanandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the chapter we're on is looking at the expansions of Advaita Acharya. So we're hearing about a few different personalities today in the texts and the purports. Obviously there's Yadunandana Acharya, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Vasudeva Dutt. So all of these personalities were great intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in particular we can focus on Raghunath Das Goswami, who's one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So obviously Raghunath Das Goswami ties in particular with Yadunandana Acharya, so we can hear a bit more about some of these personalities from today's discussion. So Raghunath Das Goswami, according to Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, was born in the year 1494. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in 1486, and he lived to 1586. So he's the personification of austerity and renunciation. That's what he's very, very, very famous for. And you can still visit the Samadhi of Raghunath Das Goswami, which is on the banks of Radhakund, which is the most sacred place in the whole universe. He resided there for a long time in the later years of his life. So he was also the first of the 6 Goswamis to actually meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was born in a village called Sri Krishnapur in West Bengal, and actually came from a very, very wealthy family at the time. His father's name was Govardhan Majumdar, and that particular family were basically what you could call them millionaires. They were a wealthy mercantile family, and they were paying taxes to the Hussain Shah at the time, who was the Emperor of Bengal, and he was leasing them land to extract taxes from, and so they were giving this money over to Hussain Shah. So as a result, they were very, very, very wealthy at the time. So he came from a very wealthy family background. And his family were also very pious. They would give a lot of charity away, especially to Vaishnavas. They were very charitably disposed. Prabhupada does comment, though, that they weren't pure devotees, that they were, in Prabhupada's words, were more kinista adhikaris, that they were giving wealth more in the mood of wanting to do it as a pious activity, not necessarily in the mood of giving selflessly to Vaishnava devotees. So they were a type of devotee, but a lower form of devotee, you could say. They weren't pure self-realised souls. So the spiritual master of the Majumdaras, the family his name was, as we heard about today, was Yadunandana Acharya, and Yadunandana Acharya was a disciple of Advaita Acharya. So he was like the family initiating guru of the whole family. So he initiated Raghunath Das Goswami. And also it's explained, we heard today, that Yadunandana Acharya was a very close associate of Vasudeva Dutt. And Vasudeva Dutt was a very, very famous devotee. I think there were 2 brothers, Mukunda Dutt and Vasudeva Dutt, who were from the spiritual realm. It's explained here that Vasudeva Dutt was a singer in Vrindavan whose name was Madhuvrata. So they were very famous for the beautiful kirtans that they would lead. But Vasudeva Dutt was also very famous for his mood of compassion upon all the fallen souls in the material world. He's very famous for making a prayer to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, requesting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give him all the sinful reactions of all the living entities in the entire universe. And in this way that the living entities could be liberated, and he was prepared to take on all the sinful reactions. But that wasn't just a sentimental claim he was making. He actually sincerely meant that. That was his level of compassion and realisation, as he was willing to take on all the sinful reactions of all the living entities in the entire universe. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, talks about how Jesus Christ, the Acharya of the Christian tradition, was willing to take on the sinful reactions of those who surrendered to him, but Vasudeva Dutt was willing to take on everyone's reaction, whether they surrendered or not. That was his level of realisation. So, unbelievable ocean of compassion and mercy. Nice person to meditate upon for those who are preaching Krishna consciousness, that this is the level of depth of compassion and mercy of these associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vasudeva Dutt is particularly well known for being in that mood of mercy and compassion, which was very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because that's the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to be very merciful and compassionate to all of the conditioned souls in this Kali Yuga, which is why he's the most magnanimous incarnation, because he's freely distributing what no incarnation has ever done before, and that's freely giving away this Krishna prema to all the unqualified people of Kali Yuga. So this is the mood that we're cultivating as followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and practitioners of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. There's this mood of selfless mercy and compassion upon the conditioned souls of Kali Yuga. As Caitanya Swami likes to say, that this Sankirtan mission is simultaneously a mood of self-transformation and distribution. So both things have to go on. We have to purify ourselves and simultaneously spread Krishna consciousness according to our ability. And of course that varies from person to person. Some people like Rupa Raghunath like to be out there in the front lines and freely distributing the books as much as possible. Others also giving prasadam to the conditioned souls. Others are doing Harinam. So there's so many ways that we can share this culture of Krishna consciousness and share this Sankirtan movement with the rest of the world. And we know that this is the solution. We got the solution. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we understand you're part of the solution. Yeah? So what does Mahatma Gandhi say? That be the change in the world that you want to see. So we are the solution. We are actually offering the solution. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gate anyataha. That in this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way apart from this Harinam. So this is the solution we have to all the craziness and ever-growing insanity that we see going on around us on a day-to-day basis. So this is the solution. This is it. So we have a responsibility to share this as much as we can according to our capabilities. And of course, if we pray for that, Krishna will empower you, and Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda will empower you to have the intelligence to spread this Krishna consciousness. So, continuing on with Raghunath Das Goswami, a little sidetrack there, sorry. I think I'm preaching to the converted, you all know these things already. So, Yadunandanacharya was, as I explained, was an Indian student of Vasudeva Dutt, and the family priest, his name was Balaramacharya, and both Yadunandanacharya and Balaramacharya were very dear associates of Haridas Thakur. So Balaramacharya and Yadunandanacharya would invite Haridas Thakur to come and have discussions with them and have Sangha with them, and one of these occasions they invited Raghunath Das Goswami, who's a young child, to come in to meet Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur is famous for being the Namacharya, the Acharya of the holy name. So when he was staying in the village, and Raghunath Das Goswami got to have some association with Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur was talking about the holy names and talking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and would encourage Raghunath Das Goswami to chant the holy names. So as a result of this association, Raghunath Das Goswami became very attracted to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just by hearing about him, and became very attracted to chanting the holy names of Krishna. So this was the beginning of his attraction to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement through the association of the devotees. So this is how Krishna consciousness takes hold, is through the Sangha of the association of the Vaishnavas. So through the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we can get the seed of Krishna consciousness within our heart, and we can grow and cultivate that seed through hearing and chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna and hearing about the pastimes of Lord Caitanya and his followers. So at the age of 15, Raghunath Das heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit to Shantipur after he took sannyas. And despite resistance from his parents, he ran away to go and meet them. So this was a theme, an ongoing theme with Raghunath Das Goswami and his family, that his family were very concerned that he was giving up his attachment to this opulent life that they had, and he wanted to become renounced and just wanted to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and do Sankirtan. So this was very, very disturbing for his parents, who wanted him to follow in the family tradition of being very wealthy aristocrats. So when he first met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he first of all fell at his lotus feet. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his causeless mercy, blessed him with a touch of his feet. At this time, Raghunath Das Goswami was able to render personal service to the body of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then when he returned home, that was the point of no return. That was it. He was finished. His material life was over. He got this conviction within his heart that he can no longer be a materialist, or focusing on using the human form of life for sense enjoyment and sense gratification. He totally had given it up by this point. But he wanted to go and join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri, but of course his family would not allow him to do this. So time and time again he'd be running away from home. I don't know, have you run away from home when you were younger? Yeah, I think I did that as well. You ran away from home, renounced the shelter of your family, you ran away. So this is Raghunath Das Goswami, ran away from home to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So every time his father would catch him and send servants out to keep him there, and he'd even keep 5 different watchmen to guard him day and night, and 4 servants to see to his every comfort, and 2 brahmanas to cook for him. So 11 people were engaged in making sure he could not run away to Puri again. So you can imagine that you have everything you need. You've got money, you have wealth, you have servants, you've got people cooking for you. You have no material need whatsoever, but still this was not enough to keep Raghunath Das Goswami at home. So when Mahaprabhu again visited Shantipur, Raghunath begged his father, "Please allow me to see the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, otherwise my life will not remain in my body." So his father did allow him to go to Shantipur and send many servants to accompany him. And constantly he was thinking, how can I get free from the watchman? How will I be able to go with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Puri? And of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being omniscient, knew this desire of Raghunath Das Goswami. And he assured him with some very nice instructions. He said to him, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Raghunath Das Goswami, that return home now, don't be over-enthusiastic and control yourself. Keep your divine love for Krishna within your heart and don't express it outwardly. Don't advertise it. Very soon the time will come when Krishna will call you. He will make a way out for you. Don't allow any external show, but keep it within your heart. So this is a nice instruction to Raghunath Das Goswami, is outwardly be normal, but inwardly be a madman. You know? Retain this love within your heart, and Krishna will make all arrangements for you to come to him and fully surrender to him, saranagati, in full surrender. So sometimes we have to do that ourselves as well. Sometimes we have to appear very normal, like I know with when we have to associate with our family members sometimes, when the Christmas holidays are coming up and we have to go do the family Christmas thing, that our family members may not appreciate us chanting and preaching the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and telling them they're all rascals and give up your material life. May not go down so well at the family dinner. So sometimes we have to act normally externally, but inside we're always thinking of Krishna and thinking of his devotees, and when we'll be back in the association, the Sangha of the Vaishnavas. So Raghunath Das Goswami returned home, and he was married. He became married, and said that his wife was very, very beautiful, like very angelic and very, very attractive. So he was married to a very young, beautiful wife. However, still this was not enough to keep him engaged and wanting to stay in that material situation. He had no interest in material life whatsoever. And also it's explained he then began to live in the outer section of the house in the Durga Mandap, which is the area where they would do Durga worship. So he would stay in that particular area. so he could focus on chanting and hearing. So his father and guardians, it's explained, his father became very grave and, "Oh, this is very serious. My son's giving up his material life." So he became very disturbed, so increased the number of watchmen who were overseeing his son. He was very fearful that he was going to run away once again, despite all the allurements and offerings that were put in place for Raghunath Das. So Raghunath Das Goswami, even though he was being watched, he had the idea to go and meet Nityananda Prabhu in the nearby town of Panihati. He thought, let me see Nityananda Prabhu, and if the guards come with me, at least I'll still get to see Lord Nityananda. So it moves on to the next slide, a very famous the Panihati Chittadahi festival, which was instigated by Raghunath Das Goswami. So this is a section read from the Adi-lila, chapter 6, where Lord Caitanya meets Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami considered in his mind when he went to Panihati and went to see Nityananda, Lord Nityananda. In the village of Panihati, Raghunath Das obtained an interview with Nityananda Prabhu, who was accompanied by many kirtan performers, servants and others. Sitting on a rock under a tree on the banks of the Ganges, Lord Nityananda seemed as effulgent as hundreds of thousands of rising suns. Many devotees sat on the ground surrounding him. Seeing the influence of Nityananda Prabhu, Raghunath Das was astonished. Raghunath Das offered his obeisances by falling prostrate at a distant place, and the servant of Nityananda Prabhu pointed out, "There is Raghunath Das offering you obeisances." Hearing this, Lord Nityananda Prabhu said, "You're a thief! Now you've come to see me, come here, today I shall punish you." So Raghunath Das Goswami is just paying his obeisances, and Nityananda Prabhu is saying, you're a thief, I'm going to punish you." This is the dealings between the residents of the spiritual world. So Prabhupada makes a comment on that particular verse. Out of humility, Raghunath Das had offered obeisances from a distance, but Lord Nityananda, in a humorous mood, said he was like a thief, one who hides in the shadows on the outskirts. At this time, Raghunath Das was a young man, only about 22 years old. Lord Nityananda called him, but Raghunath Das did not go near the Lord. Then the Lord forcibly caught him and placed his lotus feet upon Raghunath Das's head. Lord Nityananda was by nature very merciful and funny. Being merciful, he spoke to Raghunath Das as follows: "You're just like a thief, for instead of coming near, you stay away at a distant place. Now that I've captured you, I shall punish you. You make a festival and feed all my associates yogurt and chipped rice." Hearing this, Raghunath Das was greatly pleased. So Prabhupada comments, this was a humorous request because Raghunath Das was practically a prince, and chipped rice is the most simple food. It would be as if Mukesh Ambani, now one of the richest men in the world, came to the temple and said, "I want to do some service." And Tukaram Prabhu, the temple president, replied, "Okay, buy puffed rice for all the devotees." That would be a joke. Imagine Raghunath Das is living in unlimited opulence like Indra, the king of heaven, and Nityananda Prabhu says, "I'm going to punish you. You have to serve chipped rice and yogurt to all my associates." So this is a very famous festival that was organised by Raghunath Das Goswami. So he organised pots full of various chipped rice and other dried fruits and bananas and other sweet types of preparations. And this was distributed to all of the devotees. I know that Caitanya Maharaj has established this festival when he visited the Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir, and this festival was very nice, where different pots were filled with all these delicious, delectable sweet rice, chipped rice preparations. So the farm was doing it as well, like a few years ago. It's sort of morphed into a different thing now, where we do a picnic by the river down the bottom there, but we were doing that, and everyone would decorate and paint their pots. I know most of you were here for that. We might have decorated and painted a pot, and then those pots were auctioned off, and they were filled with these different chipped rice preparations. So that's more the traditional way of observing this Chittadahi chipped rice festival. So Nityananda was very pleased by this festival that Raghunath Das Goswami arranged, and blessed him, saying, "Very soon your bright day will come." And he addressed the other devotees at the time. "See this young boy, he has immense wealth. In abundance he has everything required for a young man's enjoyment, but he does not care for it. Krishna's grace has come down into his heart, so he does not care for anything of this world." So Raghunath Das Goswami in this way was blessed by all the devotees and all the Vaishnavas, and was blessed to become free from all material entanglements. So this is the way to advance in spiritual life or to be successful, is one has to request and get the blessings of the devotees. It's a very important aspect of Vaishnava culture, is receiving the mercy and the blessings of the Vaishnavas to make advancement. Even Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote the Caitanya Caritamrita, also asked the blessings of the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan at the time to bless him to write this literature. And I think Prabhupada also comments how in order to write transcendental literature, then one has to be blessed by the Vaishnavas, has to request permission from the Vaishnavas to write transcendental literature. So this is one of the secrets to advancing in spiritual life, which is why one has to become humble, because if one is just thinking that on their own material laurels and good karmic credits that one will achieve things, that's not how to be successful, that one has to actually ask and be very humble and ask the devotees for their blessings and mercy. So Raghunath Das Goswami was very much so in that mood of taking the mercy and requesting the mercy of the devotees. Of course, there's a very nice description if you want to read more about this Chittadahi festival, which is in the Adi-lila we just read from. There's a nice detailed description of it there if you want more information about that. So we'll move further into the renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami. So this took place in the year 1517 AD. This is a further reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila. After taking the dust from the feet of Raghava Pandit, this is just after the Chittadahi festival, Raghunath Das returned to his home, feeling greatly obliged to Lord Nityananda because of having received his merciful benediction. From that day on, he did not go into the inner section of the house and would sleep on the Durga Mandapa. There, however, the watchman alertly kept guard, and Raghunath Das was always thinking of various means by which to escape their vigilance. At that time, all the devotees of Bengal were going to Jagannath Puri to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Das could not accompany them, for they were so famous they would have been caught immediately. Thus Raghunath Das thought deeply about how to escape, and one night while he was sleeping on the Durga Mandapa, his guru, Yadunandanacharya, who's also a devotee as well, entered the house when only 4 dandas remained until the end of night. I think 4 dandas mean about 96 minutes before the sun rising. So Yadunandanacharya was the priest and spiritual master of Raghunath Das. Although born in a Brahmana family, he had accepted the mercy of Vasudeva Dutt. Yadunandanacharya had been officially initiated by Advaita Acharya, thus he considered Lord Chaitanya his life and soul. So purport to that is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that although the atheists who have deviated from the order of Advaita Acharya introduced themselves as followers of Advaita Acharya, they do not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yadunandanacharya, one of the most confidential followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was the initiated disciple of Advaita Acharya. He was not polluted by sentimental distinctions classifying Vaishnavas according to birth. Therefore, although Vasudeva Dutt had not been born in a Brahmana family, Yadunandanacharya also accepted him as a spiritual master. So that's an important aspect of the Sankirtan movement, is that in India you have this rigid caste system, the Brahmana caste system, and was being exploited by the Brahmanas. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't accept that this caste system was valid, and we can see that also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also making people not born in Brahmana families as Brahmanas, and this very much so disturbed some of the Brahminical class at the time. So we can see with the example here of Yadunandanacharya that he was, although Vasudeva Dutt wasn't born in a Brahmana family, Yadunandanacharya accepted him as a spiritual master. So that's the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is what the Sankirtan movement is all about. Is even though materially someone may not be qualified, the qualification is based on their spiritual adhikar, their spiritual development. So we can see so many examples of people and associates of Lord Chaitanya who took shelter and took initiation from people who maybe weren't materially qualified. An example of that, of course, is Gadadhar Pandit, who took initiation from Pundarik Vijayanidhi. Now, Pundarik Vijayanidhi externally looked like a materialist. He was dressed very nicely and oiled back hair, and Gadadhar Pandit, when he first saw Pundarik Vijayanidhi, thought, oh, who is this materialist? You know, who is he? And then someone recited a verse glorifying Radha and Krishna into the ear of Pundarik Vijayanidhi, And when this verse was recited, he showed these very, very ecstatic symptoms. So Gadadhar Pandit therefore realised he'd been offensive and took shelter of Pundarik virginity. So we can see that very much so in Kali Yuga, people are very judgmental of people's external appearance. So I think most of us are conditioned that way. We judge people by their external appearances. But we can see that in spiritual circles, we should be very careful who we're dealing with, because we don't know that people's level of spiritual advancement. Even we can see with the Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami appeared naked in the assembly of the sages there, even though he was a 16-year-old boy, and generally nakedness isn't very much so appreciated within Vedic culture. He was so advanced on a Paramahamsa level that even though he was naked, people realised that he's a very, very exalted avadut, spiritually advanced, so he was not on the bodily concept of life. But I don't recommend walking around naked. Probably won't go down so well, but the point is that we shouldn't judge people on their external appearances. So when Yadunandanacharya entered the house of Raghunath Das and stood in the courtyard, Raghunath Das went there and fell to offer his obeisances. One of Yadunandanacharya's disciples had been worshipping the deity but had left that service. Yadunandanacharya wanted Raghunath Das to induce the disciple to take up that service again. Yadunandanacharya requested Raghunath Das, "Please induce the Brahmana to resume the service, for there is no other Brahmana to do it." So obviously Yadunandanacharya is aiding and abetting Raghunath Das Goswami's escape. After saying this, Yadunandanacharya took Raghunath Das with him and went out. By that time all the watchmen were deeply asleep because it was the end of night. East of the house of Raghunath Das was the house of Yadunandanacharya. Yadunandanacharya and Raghunath Das talked together as they went toward that house. Halfway along the path, Raghunath Das submitted at the lotus feet as a spiritual master. "I shall go to the home of that Brahmana and induce him to return and send him to your home. You may go home without anxiety. Following your order, I shall persuade the Brahmana." On this plea, after asking permission, Raghunath Das decided to go away. Raghunath Das thought, "This is the greatest opportunity to go away because this time there are no servants or watchmen with me." Thinking in this way, he quickly proceeded toward the east. So he made a run for it. Sometimes he turned around to look back, but no one was following him. Thinking of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, he left the general path and proceeded with great haste on the one not generally used. Giving up the general path from village to village, he passed through the jungles, thinking with heart and soul about the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's explained that he walked for 12 days, and out of those 12 days, only 3 days he was able to attain a meal to eat. So this was his determination to get to Jagannath Puri to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, when they realised that Raghunath Das Goswami had escaped from his home, they questioned Yadunandanacharya, and Yadunandanacharya is like, "I know nothing. I know nothing. No, I don't know where he is. I just took him out and I thought he went back to his house. So I don't know." So quickly Raghunath Das Goswami's father sent men to go and find him. And at the time there were Vaishnavas travelling in a great body to go see Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, because a lot of devotees from Bengal, from Mayapur, would go to Jagannath Puri quite regularly to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there. So they figured that Raghunath Das Goswami would have maybe joined this party, but they found the party, but he wasn't there with them. So not caring about eating, he travelled all day. Hunger was not an impediment, for his mind was concentrated upon attaining the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when he reached Jagannath Puri after 12 days, he came and met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was sitting with his companions headed by Sarup Damodar. Staying at a distant place, seems he likes offering his obeisances far away, like he did with Lord Nityananda. He also offered his obeisances at a distance from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Mukunda Dutt said, "Here is Raghunath." As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these words, he immediately welcomed Raghunath Das. "Come here," he said. Raghunath then clasped the lotus feet of the Lord, but the Lord stood up and embraced him out of his causeless mercy. So Raghunath Das offered prayers at the lotus feet of all the devotees, headed by Sarup Damodar Goswami. Seeing the special mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had bestowed upon Raghunath Das, they embraced him also. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "The mercy of Lord Krishna is stronger than anything else. Therefore the Lord has delivered you from the ditch of the materialistic life, which is like a hole into which people pass stool." So it was Lord Chaitanya's summary of people who are attached to material life, like a hole in which people pass stool. Hare Krishna. Raghunath Das answered within his mind, "I do not know who Krishna is. I simply know your mercy. My Lord has saved me from my family life." The Lord continued, "Your father and his elder brother are both related as brothers to my grandfather, Nilambara Chakrabarti. Therefore I consider them my grandfathers. Since your father and your elder brother are younger brothers of Nilambara Chakrabarti, I may joke about them in this way. My dear Raghunath Das, your father and his elder brother are just like worms in stool in the ditch of material enjoyment. For the great disease of poison of material enjoyment is what they consider happiness. Although your father and uncle are charitable to Brahmanas and greatly help them, they are nevertheless not pure Vaishnavas. However, they are almost like Vaishnavas. Those who are attached to materialistic life and are blind to spiritual life must act in such a way that they are bound to repeated birth and death by the actions and reactions of their activities. By his own free will, Lord Krishna has delivered you from such a condemned materialistic life. Therefore, the glories of Lord Krishna's causeless mercy cannot be expressed." Seeing Raghunath Das skinny and dirty because of having travelled for 12 days and fasting, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his heart melting due to his causeless mercy, spoke to Swarup Damodar. "My dear Swarup," he said, "I entrust this Raghunath Das to you. Please accept him as your son or servant. There are now 3 Raghunaths among my associates. From this day forward, this Raghunath should be known as the Raghu of Swarup Damodar." So Prabhupada explains how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had 3 associates with the name Raghu. There was Vaidya Raghunath, Bhatta Raghunath and Das Raghunath, or Raghunath Das, who became celebrated as a Raghunath of Swarup, because he was entrusted by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Swarup Damodar. So Swarup Damodar took on the role of being a very fatherly Shiksha instructing guru to Raghunath Das Goswami. Swarup Damodar accepted Raghunath Das, saying, "Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever you order is accepted." He then embraced Raghunath Das again. "I cannot properly express the affection of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for his devotees. Being merciful toward Raghunath Das, the Lord continued on." So he arranged for Raghunath Das to take prasadam. One of his disciples, I think it was Govinda, was feeding Raghunath Das for 5 days in a row, and then Raghunath Das stopped doing this and then decided that he would beg at the Suma Dwara gate at the Jagannath Temple. The Jagannath Temple in Jagannath Puri in Orissa has different gates. So at this particular Suma Dwara gate, the Lion Gate, sadhus go there to beg prasadam from the Brahmana priests who worship Jagannath, and they give them freely this Jagannath prasadam. So Raghunath Das Goswami took on this practice, and then after a while, or actually at this time as well, word got back to the parents of Raghunath Das that he was begging for food at the gates of the Simadwara entrance into the Jagannath Temple. So they sent some money and some brahmanas and servants and hired a house for Raghunath Das to reside in. So even though they tried their best, Raghunath continued to just subsist on begging. Over a period of 2 years, Raghunath invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take prasadam at the house he was residing in that his parents had provided. And the Lord did so for his satisfaction. But after that, Raghunath left that idea, thinking, this is only to produce some name and fame for me. Mahaprabhu was not pleased with such prasadam. So he was taking the money that his parents had sent and was using it to provide prasadam to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but then he got a realisation that he's only doing that for some form of name and fame for himself, and this wasn't pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. just trying to skip ahead a bit because we have to wrap it up. So anyway, later on, Raghunath Das Goswami approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and explained, "You have managed to make me leave home and hearth, but now what is my best benefit? If you please tell me in your own words, my heart will be satisfied." So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave some nice instructions to Raghunath Das Goswami to become renounced. So these instructions were: don't indulge in worldly talk, don't hear worldly talk, try your best to avoid mundane matters, don't eat delicious food, but take whatever ordinary food may come of its own accord, and don't dress luxuriously. Always try to take the name of Krishna with the attitude of giving respect to others, without expecting respect from anyone. Be humble and never aspire for respectful dealings from others. In this way, try to take the name of Krishna constantly, and within try to serve Shri Shri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Mentally be in Vrindavan rendering service to Shri Shri Radha Krishna Lila. Mahaprabhu told Raghunath that this was the essence of his advice to him. Then he took Raghunath's hand and offered it to the hand of Swarup Damodar and said, "I'm giving you in charge of Swarup Damodar. He is the best spiritual teacher and he will take care of you." So when he was living in Jagannath Puri, it's explained that he would stop begging alms at Sima Dwara Gate, and he would go to a place to get free prasadam. But even then, he thought that was still too opulent. So he would even eat, in this picture here, he's eating chip rice that was discarded from the Jagannath Temple. That's explained even the cows wouldn't eat this chipped rice. It would be like rotten, and he would take the inside of it and eat that for his sustenance. So he became very, very austere and very, very renounced. And then after time, he moved from Jagannath Puri after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed away, and Swarup Damodar had passed away. He decided to go to Vrindavan to leave his body. He decided he's going to jump off Govardhan Hill and leave his body. Just prior to that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gifted Raghunath Das Goswami this Govardhan Shila, which is a piece of Govardhan Hill. So that's on the left-hand side is a picture of the Govardhan Shila that was gifted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Raghunath Das Goswami, and that particular Shaligam Shila is still being worshipped in one of the temples in Vrindavan to this day. So skipping ahead, he ends up in Vrindavan, and there's many famous pastimes when he was residing in Vrindavan. He met Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, and he revealed his mind that he came there to commit suicide because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left his body and Swarup Damodar had left, and he was feeling so morose and in such separation from the Vaishnavas, which is explained as the most painful thing you can experience, the separation from the devotees. There's that famous bhajan, was it Jaya Nilo Premadan? Lamentation due to the separation from the Vaishnavas. So he was in that consciousness, but when he met Rupa and Sanatana, they instructed him that you cannot commit suicide, but you must help us in our mission to resurrect the pastime places of Krishna and Vrindavan. There's lots of famous pastime places here. I think this is a picture in one of the bhajan kutirs at Radhakund of Raghunath Das Goswami, where he's sitting on the banks of Radhakund, and he was so deeply in thought and meditation, he didn't notice that there were two tigers that came very near him, and he was protected by Lord Krishna. There's actually two different pastimes here in one picture. So there's one pastime of Lord Krishna protecting Raghunath Das Goswami from the tigers, and another time Radharani appeared when Raghunath Das Goswami was sitting in the blazing hot sun, and he was so not in touch with what was going on in the material world. He was so absorbed in the spiritual realm, he didn't notice that he was sweating and getting burnt by the sun, and Radharani was holding a veil over him, protecting him. And Rupa Goswami saw this going on, and saw that Radha and Krishna were rendering service to Raghunath Das Goswami on different occasions, and they chastised him, saying, "You can't do this, you're accepting service from Radha and Krishna." So therefore they built him a bhajan kutir, which is still there on the banks of Radhakund. It's also where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's bhajan kutir as well, where he wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because Raghunath Das Goswami had seen a lot of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He also was giving instruction and guidance to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write this Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he also helped with the excavation of Radha Kund. It's explained that he had a dream one night when they were about to shape Shyama Kund. The Pandavas appeared to Raghunath Das Goswami saying, "Oh, we've taken birth as trees on the banks of Shyama Kund, so please don't cut these trees down." So they shaped Shyama Kund. It's in a Radha Kund's in quite a rectangular shape, where Shyama Kund goes off in a funny angle, and the reason it's in the shape it is because the trees that were residing there were the Pandavas. And I think most of those trees have died. There might be still one tree there, which is maybe Arjuna, and one of the other trees, which is Bhishma, I think is sort of leaning over a bit. But when you go to Vrindavan, you can see these trees still there, and which is the reason why Shyama Kund is in the funny shape it is. So this is the Samadhi of Raghunath Das Goswami, which is on the banks of Radha Kund, and this is the picture of, or the murti inside the Samadhi. So when you go to Radha Kund, there's many holy places around Radha Kund. So this is one such place where you can see the Samadhi on the banks of Radha Kund. So just to wrap it up, because we're going over time, there's a nice verse in the Caitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who writes, "Who could list the unlimited transcendental attributes of Raghunath Das? His strict regulative principles are exactly like the lines on a stone, so immovable. Raghunath Das spent more than 22 hours out of every 24 chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and remembering the lotus feet of the Lord. He ate and slept for less than an hour and a half, and on some days that too was impossible. Topics concerning his renunciation are wonderful. Throughout his life, he never allowed his tongue sense gratification. He never touched anything to wear except a small torn cloth and a patchwork wrapper. Whatever he ate was only to keep his body and soul together. And when he ate, he would reproach himself thus: if one's heart has been cleansed by perfect knowledge and one has understood Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, then he gains everything. Why should such a person act like a debauchee by trying very carefully to maintain his material body?" So, a very exemplary example of renunciation, who gave up everything material you could think, beautiful wife, wealth, money, and everything. He gave it up to surrender to Krishna. So of course we can't imitate. We can't imitate Raghunath Das Goswami, but we can take inspiration from his deep absorption in his Krishna consciousness and his deep love for Radha and Krishna and service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyway, we'll stop there. Thank you for listening. Raghunath Das Goswami ki jai, Adi Dandakaranya ki jai, Vasudev Dat ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya Charitamrita ki jai.